The plane hums steadily at 35,000 feet, a deceptive calm before the storm. Gregory Hensley leans forward in his seat, his face red with anger. "You're taking up too much space," he growls, his voice cutting through the quiet cabin like a knife. His words are sharp, laced with venom. Beside him, Dr. Maya Johnson freezes, her heart pounding. She had simply leaned slightly into the aisle while sleeping, but now she feels every eye on her. Gregory's hand shoots out, grabbing her, arm roughly. "This is my space," he snaps, his grip tightening. Maya winces, pain shooting through her arm, but she doesn't pull away. Gasps ripple through the passengers nearby. Some turn their heads in shock, others look down, unwilling to meet her. Gaze. The tension in the air is suffocating. "This is America," Gregory shouts, his voice booming over the hum of the engines. "You don't get special treatment here." He leans closer to Maya, his breath hot and heavy with hostility. "You need to learn your place." Maya's chest tightens, but she forces herself to breathe. Her mind flashes back to earlier that morning. She was packing her bags, carefully folding medical journals and tucking photos of smiling children into her carry-on. These were her patients, kids fighting cancer, kids who depended on her groundbreaking research to survive. This trip wasn't just about her career. It was about them. Their faces flicker in her mind now, innocent and hopeful, urging her not to let this moment break her. Her hands tremble as she grips the armrest, betraying the fear clawing at her insides. But outwardly, she remains composed. "Please let go of me," she says, her voice steady despite the storm raging within. "I haven't done anything wrong." Gregory scoffs, releasing her arm but leaning even further into her space. "You think you can just do whatever you want? Act like you own the place." His voice drips with condescension, each word designed to strip away her dignity. A few rows back, a teenager named Ethan watches silently, his phone held discreetly in his lap. His fingers tap the screen, recording every second of the altercation. His jaw clenches as he hears Gregory's words and his expression hardens. He knows something about this man, something that could change everything. For now, though, he stays quiet, waiting for the right moment. Over the intercom, the captain's voice cuts through the chaos. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. We are addressing the situation immediately." The words are measured, firm yet reassuring. They seem to echo louder than Gregory's tirade, silencing the cabin momentarily. Gregory glares at Maya, his eyes narrowing. "You think anyone's going to stick up for you? You're nothing but a—" Before he can finish, Ethan stands abruptly, holding his phone aloft. "Everyone needs to see this," he declares, his voice ringing out clear and defiant. Passengers crane their necks to see what's on his screen. A video of Gregory arguing aggressively with airport security earlier that day. "This guy got kicked off another flight for verbally abusing a black flight attendant," Ethan explains, his tone dripping with accusation. "And they let him back on without consequences." The revelation hangs in the air, shifting the energy in the cabin. Some passengers exchange horrified looks, while others nod grimly as if confirming what they already suspected. Gregory's bravado falters for a split second, but he quickly masks it with indignation. "That's a lie," he barks, pointing a finger at Ethan. "You're trying to ruin me." Maya finally speaks up, her voice stronger now. "I'm not asking for special treatment," she says, meeting Gregory's gaze head-on. "I'm asking for basic respect, something you clearly don't understand." Her words land like a punch cutting through the tension. Gregory opens his mouth to retaliate, but before he can, the captain's voice comes over the intercom again. "We will be making an unscheduled landing if necessary to ensure the safety and dignity of all passengers." The announcement sends ripples of panic through the cabin. Passengers whisper nervously, some worried about delays, others relieved that someone is finally stepping in. Maya notices something familiar in the captain's tone. A warmth, a strength that reminds her of someone from her past. A memory surfaces briefly. A young girl standing beside her on a neighborhood basketball court, both dreaming of breaking barriers in fields dominated by men. Could it really be her? As the plane begins its descent, Gregory's face twists with rage. "You think this is over?" He sneers, glaring at Maya. But there's a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes now, a crack in his armor. The screen fades to black, leaving behind a single haunting question. What happens when justice takes off, literally? Two flight attendants approach Gregory cautiously, their movements hesitant. One whispers urgently into her headset, glancing nervously at the passengers around them. They don't step between Gregory and Maya. Instead, they hover awkwardly, clearly unsure how to handle the situation. Gregory notices their reluctance and smirks. "See? Even they know I'm right," he sneers, leaning back in his seat with an air of triumph. His words hang heavy in the cabin, exposing a deeper truth. Their silence speaks volumes about who holds power and who is expected to endure injustice. Maya sits rigidly beside him, her hands gripping the armrest so tightly her knuckles turn white. Tears well up in her eyes, but she blinks them away, refusing to let them fall. She won't give him the satisfaction of seeing her break. Her voice is calm when she speaks, though it trembles just slightly. "I didn't do anything wrong," she says firmly, addressing both Gregory and the flight attendants. "All I did was lean into the aisle." The tension spreads through the cabin like wildfire. Passengers whisper among themselves, some avoiding eye contact altogether while others glance sympathetically at Maya. One woman shakes her head in disgust, muttering under her breath, "This is ridiculous." A man across the aisle nods toward Maya, silently signaling support, but no one steps forward. Not yet. Then Ethan stands abruptly, holding his phone high for everyone to see. His voice cuts through the murmurs. "Everyone needs to see this," he declares, his tone sharp and unyielding. On the screen, footage plays of Gregory shouting aggressively at airport security earlier that day. The video shows him being escorted off another flight after verbally abusing a black flight attendant. Ethan's voice rises as he explains, "This guy got kicked off a flight for racism, and guess what? They just let him back on without consequences." The revelation shocks the cabin into silence. Some passengers gasp audibly, while others exchange horrified looks. Gregory's face flushes red, but he quickly masks his discomfort with anger. "That's a lie," he barks, pointing accusingly at Ethan. "You're trying to ruin me." Before anyone can respond, Margaret speaks up from a few rows behind Maya. "Leave her alone," she snaps, glaring at Gregory. Her voice carries authority, cutting through the chaos. For a moment, there's hope. Someone has finally stood up against him. But Gregory doesn't back down. Instead, he rounds on Margaret, his eyes blazing. "I'll sue you for defamation," he shouts, his voice dripping with malice. "You think you can accuse me of something like that?" Margaret hesitates, her confidence crumbling under his threats. She stammers, I didn't mean," before trailing off completely. With a nervous glance around the cabin, she mumbles an apology and sinks back into her seat, leaving Maya feeling abandoned once again. The betrayal stings deeply, another reminder of how easily people fold under pressure. Emboldened by Margaret's retreat, Gregory doubles down, turning his fury back on Maya. "She's the one causing all this trouble," he yells, gesturing wildly at her. "Get her off this plane." His demands echo through the cabin, sparking murmurs of uncertainty among the passengers. Some look outraged, shaking their heads or whispering angrily to each other. Others, however, seem more concerned about potential delays than justice. Over the intercom, the captain's voice rings out, firm and commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will land immediately if necessary to resolve this issue." The announcement sends shockwaves through the cabin. Passengers panic, fretting about missed connections and disrupted plans. "Are you serious?" someone calls out. "We'll be hours late because of this?" Amid the growing chaos, Maya hears something familiar in the captain's voice. A warmth, a quiet strength that tugs at her memory. Fragments of her past come rushing back. A young girl standing beside her on a neighborhood basketball court, both dreaming of breaking barriers in fields dominated by men. Could it really be her? As the plane begins its descent, the weight of the moment settles over the cabin. Gregory glares at Maya, his jaw clenched tight, but there's a flicker of doubt in his eyes now, a crack in his armor. And Maya, though shaken, feels a spark of hope igniting within her. Whatever happens next, she knows she isn't alone anymore. The plane lurches slightly as it begins its descent, sending a wave of panic rippling through the cabin. Passengers clutch their armrests, some shouting questions about why they're landing early. "This is because of him, isn't it?" one man mutters, glaring at Gregory. Whispers spread like wildfire. Fear mixes with frustration, and the tension becomes almost unbearable. Over the intercom, Captain Simone's voice cuts through the chaos. Her tone is steady, authoritative, yet filled with compassion. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are making an unscheduled landing. Not because of one passenger's actions, but because every life on board deserves dignity and respect." The words hang in the air, silencing the murmurs. For a moment, no one speaks. Then, to everyone's astonishment, the cockpit door swings open. Out steps Captain Simone Thompson, a black woman whose commanding presence commands immediate attention. She strides down the aisle with purpose, her uniform crisp, her expression unyielding. The cabin falls silent, all eyes on her. Even Gregory seems momentarily stunned into silence, his mouth hanging slightly open. Simone stops near Gregory's seat, standing tall despite his attempts to intimidate her with his glare. "Sir," she says firmly, her voice cutting through, the stillness like a blade, "you have two options. Apologize sincerely to Dr. Johnson and behave respectfully for the remainder of this flight, or leave this aircraft now." Maya's breath catches in her throat as she looks up at Simone. Recognition dawns across her face. It's her, the girl from the basketball court, the neighbor who dreamed of breaking barriers alongside her. Memories flood back. Late night, talks about overcoming prejudice, shared victories when they defied expectations, and promises to never let anyone tell them they weren't good enough. Maya feels a lump rise in her throat, but she swallows it down, meeting Simone's gaze with gratitude and resolve. For a brief moment, their eyes lock, and though no words pass between them, the connection is undeniable. Simone gives Maya a subtle nod, reaffirming their bond and reminding her that she isn't alone in this fight. Maya feels a surge of strength course through her veins. It's not just her battle anymore. It's theirs. Gregory, however, isn't ready to back down. His face turns an even deeper shade of red as he explodes in fury. "You can't do this," he shouts, jabbing a finger towards Simone. "I'll sue you. I'll sue this airline. You're violating my rights." He puffs out his chest, trying desperately to reclaim control, but his bravado falters under Simone's unwavering stare. Before he can continue, a voice rises from the back of the cabin. "Apologize." It's Ethan, the teenager who first exposed Gregory's past behavior. Others quickly join in, their voices growing louder and more unified. "Apologize, apologize." The chant spreads like wildfire, passengers rising from their seats, clapping and cheering in support of Maya. Some even step into the aisle, forming a symbolic wall between Gregory and his target. Gregory's shoulders slump as the weight of collective resistance presses down on him. His mouth opens and closes, searching for words, but none come. For the first time since the ordeal began, he looks small, powerless against the tide of justice rising around him. The bravado that once fueled his aggression crumbles, leaving behind only shame and fear. As the plane touches down, authorities board immediately. Gregory storms off without another word, escorted by 2 officers. His departure marks a symbolic victory, not just for Maya, but for everyone who stood against his hate. Passengers erupt into applause, tears streaming down some faces as they cheer for Maya and thank Simone for her leadership. Maya sits back in her seat, exhaling deeply. Her hands tremble, but this time not from fear, from relief, pride, and the overwhelming knowledge that she has been seen, heard, and supported. Simone approaches her one last time before returning to the cockpit. "We've got this," Simone whispers, squeezing Maya's shoulder gently. Together. The plane begins taxiing toward the gate, the atmosphere lighter now, charged with hope instead of hostility. As Maya looks around the cabin, she sees nods of encouragement, smiles of solidarity. She knows this moment will stay with her forever, a reminder that courage always lands first. The days following the flight feel surreal for Maya. News outlets pick up the story almost immediately, and Gregory's racist tirade becomes a viral sensation. Social media erupts with hashtags like Justice for Maya and our End Racism in Aviation, sparking nationwide debates about systemic racism in air travel. Thousands of people share their own experiences of discrimination on flights, flooding comment sections with stories that mirror Maya's ordeal. For the first time, Maya realizes she isn't alone. Her pain is part of a larger struggle, one that demands attention and action. When the day of her presentation arrives, Maya stands before an audience of esteemed medical professionals, her heart pounding but resolute. She begins by acknowledging what happened on the flight, her voice steady as she recounts Gregory's aggression and the courage it took to endure it. This research, she says, gesturing to the slides behind her, is dedicated to every person who has faced injustice and kept moving forward. Resilience isn't just surviving, it's thriving despite the odds. The room erupts into applause, not just for her groundbreaking work, but for the strength she embodies. As Maya prepares to board her return flight, a letter waits for her at the gate. It's from the airline's CEO, penned with sincerity and gratitude. Dr. Johnson, it reads, your courage during this incident has inspired us to reevaluate our policies and commit to fostering a more inclusive environment for all passengers. Thank you for being a catalyst for change. Enclosed is another surprise, a formal apology from Margaret, the passenger who had initially defended Maya, but later retreated under pressure. I'll never forgive myself for abandoning you when you needed support, Margaret writes. But I hope this letter shows how much I regret my actions. Please know I'm working to be better, for myself, for others, and for the world we all deserve. Maya feels a pang of forgiveness as she folds the letter. Redemption isn't easy, but it's possible, and Margaret's words remind her of that truth. Back home, Maya reconnects with Captain Simone, and together they channel their shared experiences into something transformative. They launched an initiative aimed at promoting diversity and inclusion within the aviation industry, creating training programs designed to combat racism among staff and passengers alike. Their partnership becomes a beacon of hope, inspiring other airlines and industries to adopt similar measures. Slowly but surely, meaningful societal transformation begins to take root. One afternoon, Maya visits the hospital where her young patients eagerly await her arrival. As she walks into the ward, their faces light up with joy. Dr. Maya, they cheer, surrounding her with hugs and questions about her trip. She smiles warmly, pulling up a chair so they can gather close. You know, she begins, her voice soft but filled with conviction. Sometimes life gets hard. People might try to make you feel small or unimportant. But remember this, standing up for yourself and for others is always worth it. Her words resonate deeply with the children, many of whom have faced their own battles against illness and adversity. One little girl tugs at Maya's sleeve. Did you win? She asks innocently. Maya chuckles, brushing a strand of hair from the girl's face. Yes, sweetheart, we won, and we're going to keep winning together. As the visit comes to an end, Maya leaves the hospital feeling lighter than she has in weeks. Her journey hasn't been easy, but it's taught her invaluable lessons about resilience, unity, and the power of collective action. On her way out, she pauses beneath a sign hanging near the exit. Courage always lands first. The phrase lingers in her mind, echoing the sentiment she hopes others will carry forward. Injustice may take flight, but courage, she knows, will always find its way home. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you reflect on the power of resilience and justice, share it with others. Let's spread awareness and ignite change together. Don't miss more impactful stories like this one. Subscribe now to stay connected and be part of a community striving for equality, courage, and hope. And if you believe in standing up against injustice, hit that like button to show your support. Together we can make a difference, one story at a time.